So, The Boys has finally ended. The final episode of the final season, it's done. The story has concluded. Like the entire universe has come to an end, at least in this part. We all know what Rising is coming, but yeah, that's something. And this was the finale, and finale was okay. It wasn't that great. I mean, sure, it ended the story, it gave us what we wanted. The final confrontation between William Butcher and Homelander, all of that happened. Every character got their ending, and it was sufficient. It was okay. It was kind of expected as well. But the execution was kind of, it could have been better. Especially the cinematography of the last episode felt quite pale. It felt quite, it just didn't feel cinematic for an end like this. It just felt like a normal regular show. It didn't have a different vibe to it. It didn't have this atmospheric vibe to it, which I kind of hoped they would give, especially in certain scenes. So yeah, let's talk about it. Everything from the start, all the things, all the characters who played their part and their roles, what happened. So first, let's start with Sage, because her character like literally went away in the very first, like yeah, in among the very first scenes. So Sage's character was like, of course, the smartest, but then they dumb her down with the when Kimco powers her down. So it's like, it just doesn't quite make sense from Sage's part. I mean, sure, she wanted to understand what it would be like to be silent up here, to be calm and up in the mind, but it felt like a very throwaway decision. Her character kind of didn't make sense, but yeah. And we also see the Deep's character, and here we see his confrontation with Homelander first, like what Homelander actually feels about Deep. And you get to know that, of course, Homelander doesn't respect him at all. Like, he just sees him as just someone who doesn't deserve anything, whereas Deep thinks he deserves everything, like literally, and he's mad after Homelander. So we see his character die, as he was promised that if he even stepped a foot into the oceans or any water bodies, he'll be killed. And that was the thing with his final confrontation with Annie. So all of these characters came to an end. And the thing is, the way these deaths or these character ends played out, it felt quite abrupt. There was no sense of development towards it. I mean, sure, we all know it was coming, but it just happened. It didn't have a build up in that particular scene. I mean, sure, there was a build up of all these seasons, all the things that have happened, including Homelander. Like, the end felt so abrupt, and it felt like, you could have expanded this all over this season rather than putting it just in the final episode. Like, the entire War Rising thing that they put into the entire season, like they put into this entire season, that could have been cut short. You could have expanded this further down. Like Homelander's death could have happened at around episode 6 or even 7. It was fine. And in the last episode, you kind of deal with that whole Butcher arc, him turning evil. And again, the whole Butcher turning evil, or I mean him just going off the racks and him just wanting to kill every soup, it was just so short, and it just ended so abruptly that it just didn't make sense. I'm sure it makes sense, no doubt in that, but it's just so small. It isn't explored enough. And yeah, they could have kind of made that into something more. They could have pushed that down a few episodes, and it could have given us a more enlarged ending rather than whatever we saw right now. So the first couple of episodes, they were broadly spaced. I mean, sure, there were cuts in between, but it felt like a narrative. Okay, this is going. But in the end, it just happened. Like, the last episode was just its own thing. It was the end, and we understand that, but it felt quite abrupt. It didn't feel complete. The end didn't feel complete. So that was it. And of course, Huey and Annie get a happy ending. They are just living with each other after all this has happened. We see Ryan not wanting to live with either Butcher. I mean, sure, Homelander is dead. He helps Butcher to kill Homelander. And he just goes with MM. And now let's talk about the Homelander scene, where Homelander's power is finally taken off. Now that scene shows us what the real human beneath all that superpoweredness Homelander is. And it's just literally a little crying child who desperately wants to live and just wants validation. And I mean, we literally see when he had all that power, when he was immortal, he was telling people he's God, he was telling people he's the savior, and the moment all of that was taken away, he's just a human. And he begs Butcher to not kill him. And yeah, that entire scene was funny, but still, the end felt very abrupt. And the end, or like Homelander's end, didn't feel as great of a deal in the scene. I mean, sure, it is a great of a deal, but I mean, okay, I guess maybe it was to portray that even Homelander is like kind of unimportant. You can just kill him off the way he kills off people. So that kind of makes sense, but I hoped that entire scene like kind of had more heft towards it rather than just Homelander sniveling and like crying like a baby. It could have been a creative decision, who knows, but the entire episode could have been more fleshed out. Maybe you could have split this particular episodes in two episodes, like 7 and 8 could have been like this entire ending finale rather than just the eighth episode. So yeah, that was it. Butcher's character also ends, even he dies at the hands of Huey. That makes kind of like a perfect sense. They start off in the first season where they barely knew each other, and in the end, Huey is still Huey and Butcher is still Butcher. He's still that soup killing person, and that is the only thing that gives him purpose in life. And it also kind of makes sense, like when Homelander is gone, Butcher is also gone. Like you cannot extend his uh, ideas or extend his life more so that more different things may occur. So yeah, let's see what happens. I mean, for now, this genuinely feels like the end, and I hope this is the end. I don't think they should explore further down or like after this point in time about what happens in here. I mean, sure, there are certain build-ups that Stan Edgar is back at what, and you know that Singer is the president once more, and he was asking Huey for to join him in some, you know, in some mission or whatever he was trying to build. So let's hope this is the end for the boys. It was decent. It could have been very much better, and this entire season could have been very much better. In fact, it felt quite skipped. It felt quite rushed, but still, that's it. It's complete. We get to see it, and okay, it's fine. Uh, I enjoyed it. It was good. Now let's see what Rising brings up. And again, I just hope it is just a one season thing or perhaps just two season, and that's it. I hope they move on to different IP now, because in pop culture we have to kind of move forward with things. We cannot just stuck in the same um, universe and narratives again and again. Especially a constrained universe like the boys, where you do not actively have developing material, where you actively have like these already established worlds. No, most of this is original. I mean, sure, it is inspired by the comics, but still the comics are very limited. This is not like the Invincible universe where you are still working on it, with the writers and creators are still making stuff, and it's already like a vast expansive universe. No, so I hope they get done with this and we move on to exploring some other comic books, some other universes. Now, I understand this might sound like a little ironic, because on the other hand, we have Marvel and DC who already have so many movies, so many shows, but I think that's kind of the point. These narratives that are kind of satirical or diabolical in a sense, they have to end. You cannot continue that further because the themes are the same, the exploration of narratives is the same. Whereas with Marvel, DC, all of that, I mean, sure, it has a lot of, you know, all this media business and corporate business, whatever, fueled into it, but it gives you new themes, it gives you new perspectives, new kind of characters to look at, and things and interesting stories from that part, which merges into this grander narrative, which is like this end team up, which feels good, which feels grand. Whereas in such things, you already have like the main set of characters, and you can only go around them so much, and then you try to do spin-offs and all of that, but it doesn't like quite tie into it, because we saw what happened with Gen V. Like they were in here for a couple minutes, but that was it. It didn't have like a huge impact. Even though Gen V, I personally liked the Gen V show. It was good. I liked it, but didn't bring in that Gen V-ness into the boys, you know, storyline. So, and again with What Rising, I think it's going to be the same. Like, it is going to be a good standalone thing, but it isn't going to quite build up on the narrative of what and the boys, or that their entire story that we have built, or that has been built up to this point. So yeah, that's it. Sub to the channel, and I'll see you in the next.